In November 2021, the Museum of Modern Art, one of the most prestigious, well-funded art institutions on the planet, tweeted this profound, deeply vulnerable quote by the legendary Mexican artist Frida Kahlo.
Oh, right. I remember this.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was moving. But the only problem, Frida Kahlo never said it.
No, she definitely did not.
A 17-year-old girl named Rebecca did. Welcome to the deep dive.
It really is like a staggering mix-up when you sit with it and unpack the implications.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we are talking about an institution entirely dedicated to historical accuracy and artistic preservation, and they were completely bypassed by a teenage internet post.
And that is exactly our mission today. We're looking at a fascinating article that exposes 4 incredibly popular quotes that are constantly, relentlessly misattributed to Frida Kahlo.
Yeah, if you spend any time online, you have seen these.
Oh, absolutely. So today, to you listening, we're going to separate the real Frida from the fake ones. But beyond just fact-checking, we're digging into the why.
Right, like how do these specific fabrications happen?
Exactly. We'll be uncovering the actual psychological mechanisms behind this phenomenon.
Right.
So from cognitive fluency and confirmation bias all the way to calculated algorithmic social media strategies.
Well, before we dissect the fakes, we really have to ground this in historical reality.
Right.
Because to understand why modern internet users continually put words in Kahlo's mouth, you have to understand whose mouth they're hijacking, you know?
Yeah, you have to know the real person.
Exactly. The real Frida Kahlo's life and body of work were essentially this lifelong exorcism of her own pain.
Which is heavy.
It is. People love to slap the surrealist label on her, but she famously rejected that term. She maintained she wasn't painting dreams. She was painting her brutal, unvarnished reality.
And physically speaking, I mean, that reality was devastating.
Immensely devastating. She survived childhood polio, which left her with a withered right leg.
Wow.
And then, as a young woman, she survived a truly horrific bus crash where an iron handrail pierced her abdomen.
Which is just unimaginable.
Yeah. The resulting physical trauma meant she endured dozens of surgeries. She wore these full-body orthopedic corsets and basically lived a life of chronic, debilitating pain.
Right.
She actually spent a vast majority of her life confined to her home in Mexico City, often painting right from her bed until her death in 1954 at the age of just 47.
So that anguish fueled her vivid portraits. And, it fueled the actual verified poetry found in her recovered journals and letters.
Right. She did not sugarcoat her existence.
No, she didn't. So when people take these random sanitized quotes and attach her name to them, it's not just like taking a cheap homemade shirt and gluing a designer label on it to make it sell.
No, it's more insidious than that.
Yeah. It's more like taking a universally trusted famous actor and having them narrate an audiobook they had absolutely nothing to do with. We don't necessarily care about the unknown author. We just crave that comforting, weighty authority of a specific voice.
Because that authority lends an instant sense of historical gravitas to whatever the text happens to be.
Exactly. So, to you listening right now, if you have ever repinned, reblogged on Tumblr, or shared a beautifully formatted, moody quote on Instagram, this deep dive is going to fundamentally change how you look at your feed.
It really will.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's go back to that massive Momo blunder we mentioned.
Oh, this one is wild.
It is. The quote in question basically defined an entire generation of misunderstood teenagers. I'll read it. Because I used to think I was the strangest person in the world, but then I thought, there are so many people in the world, there must be someone just like me who feels bizarre and flawed in the same ways I do.
And what's fascinating here is how an innocent, completely accidental visual choice managed to rewrite cultural history.
An accident.
Yeah. Back in 2008, a 17-year-old named Rebecca Martin wrote those exact words and submitted them anonymously to a community art project called Post Secret.
Oh, I remember Post Secret.
Right. And to make her postcard look interesting, she haphazardly glued on a ripped-out magazine photo of Frida Kalo as the background.
Wait, okay, I have to stop you there. I mean, I completely understand how a teenager scrolling through a blogging site gets fooled by a glued-on picture.
Sure, we all scroll fast.
Right, we don't always check the sources of memes, but MoMA, an institution armed with professional curators.
And historians, yeah.
How does a visual accident bypass a team of professionals to the point where they pair a teenager's words with Kahlo's 1940 self-portrait with cropped hair and then tweet it out as official history?
Well, it comes down to a powerful psychological concept called cognitive fluency.
Okay, what is that?
Our brains are incredibly lazy by design. Even the highly trained brains of art historians, cognitive fluency refers to how easily and smoothly our brain processes information.
Right, so we take the path of least resistance.
Exactly. When you take evocative text and lay it over a highly familiar, culturally recognizable image, like Kalo's unmistakable unibrow, her floral crowns, her intense gaze, your brain processes that combination without friction.
Oh, wow, because it just feels right.
Yes. It feels true because the visual pairing is seamless. That visual familiarity essentially bypasses the critical thinking center of the brain.
So the sentiment matches the vibe, meaning our cognitive fluency is high and our skepticism just plummets.
Precisely.
Because the teenager's words, about feeling bizarre, feeling flawed, feeling isolated, they perfectly capture the actual themes of vulnerability that defined Kalo's real artwork.
Right. It was the absolute perfect storm for a viral fake. The words fit the pre-existing mold of the suffering artist we've already built in our collective consciousness.
So if the post-secret mix-up was an accident of visual association, what happens when that exact same mechanism is hijacked on purpose to feed our modern need for therapy speak?
Ah, yes.
This brings us to a quote that practically haunts Pinterest boards and wellness blogs. Let me read the first half of this one. Go for it. It says, "And in the end, I believe that we don't need to do anything to be loved. We spend our lives trying to seem prettier, smarter. But I realize two things. Those who love us see us with their hearts and attribute qualities to us beyond those we really have. And those who don't want to love us will never be satisfied with all our efforts."
Okay, let's issue a firm reality check regarding that paragraph.
Please do.
Despite its absolute ubiquity online, there is zero evidence of these words in Kalo's diaries, her personal letters, or any recorded interviews.
One.
None. It is a complete fabrication.
See, here's where it gets really interesting to me. This sentiment is incredibly Frida-coded.
Oh, for sure.
Think about what we just discussed regarding her lifelong physical trauma, the body casts, the chronic pain. When we read a paragraph about not needing to seem prettier and just being loved exactly as you are, we want to believe she said it.
We desperately want it to be true.
We want to give her this peaceful, modern self-acceptance despite her bodily pain.
And by doing that, we are engaging in textbook confirmation bias.
Break that down for us in this specific context. How is this, quote, triggering confirmation bias?
Well, confirmation bias is our innate psychological tendency to search for, interpret, and favor information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or values.
Right.
Over the decades, modern culture has basically decided that Frida Kahlo is the ultimate feminist icon of overcoming both physical and emotional adversity.
She's on every tote bag.
Exactly. So when a quote surfaces that sounds like a modern epiphany of radical self-love, our brains instantly accept it. It confirms the heroic narrative we've already constructed about her. We project our own modern desire for her to have found inner peace onto her historical legacy.
Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, who cares if a teenager or an anonymous blogger wrote it instead of Frida Kahlo? Reminding people they are lovable as they are is great advice.
And that's a very fair point.
Right. As far as fake news goes, a quote about self-worth isn't exactly toppling governments.
No, it is relatively harmless on the surface. Having messages of self-acceptance floating around the digital ether is generally a positive cultural force.
But there's a catch.
There is. It reveals a fundamental insecurity in how we as a society consume advice. The profound irony is that for this very sound, healthy advice to gain traction and be shared millions of times, it couldn't just stand on its own merits.
It had to be pinned to a historical icon.
Exactly. We don't trust the message unless a legendary figure delivers it.
We need the designer label of her name to validate our own feelings. But, while projecting self-esteem onto a feminist icon might be mostly harmless, the internet doesn't stop at gentle therapy speak.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
It also loves to aggressively hijack her famously tumultuous love life.
Yeah.
And this is where the historical anachronism becomes impossible to ignore.
Yeah, get ready for this one.
It is a highly self-assured, demanding breakup poem. It's essentially a literal checklist of modern relationship expectations.
The list of demands in this text is incredibly specific to modern dating culture.
It is. The quote basically says, I'm not asking you to kiss me or apologize when you're wrong. I'm not asking for a hug or for compliments. I'm not asking you to call to check on my day or tell me you miss me or thank me or support my decisions or even offer a listening ear.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And it caps it all off with the ultimate mic drop. It ends with, because if I have to ask you, I don't want it anymore.
So online, this specific text is almost always presented as a direct, dramatic confrontation between Frida Kahlo and her husband, the muralist Diego Rivera.
But let me guess.
Yep. Yet again, there's absolutely zero proof it exists anywhere in her extensive writings.
Wait, but she wrote volumes of intensely passionate, sometimes desperate love letters to Rivera. Are you saying there's not even a kernel of this boundary-setting sentiment in those letters?
Not a single trace.
See, earlier we established that the self-love quote was mostly harmless. But I'm going to push back here and say this one actually bothers me.
Why is that?
This is what I'm coining as a classic case of notes app poetry hijacking.
Notes app poetry hijacking. Okay, unpack that analogy for us.
You know the exact vibe. It reads like a faceless internet wordsmith who went through a messy, modern breakup, opened the Notes app on their phone in 2023, and typed out their very 21st century grievances.
Oh, totally.
Then they read it back, realized it sounded like every other mundane rant on social media, and decided to slap the name of a notoriously passionate historical artist on it. They borrowed Kahlo's gravitas to make their own breakup text sound epic.
Which raises an important question. Why do we buy into it so easily? It exposes our massive blind spots regarding historical romanticization.
Because we want the drama.
We do, but we forget that the language of heartbreak and devotion in the 1930s and 40s was fundamentally different than how we communicate today.
The anachronism is glaring. The language here sounds like someone who just finished a session of modern couples therapy. Setting boundary checklists and demanding emotional labor.
Right.
It does not sound like a mid-20th century artist who wrote surreal, blood-soaked letters about agonizing devotion. We are taking today's internet relationship dynamics and projecting them backward in time.
And doing so completely erases the actual highly complex reality of her marriage to Rivera.
Yeah, it really does.
It replaces their deeply troubled, interdependent relationship with a flattened, easily digestible girl boss narrative. We prefer the sassy, empowered meme version of historical figures over the messy, complicated truth of their actual lives.
It's basically rewriting history to make ourselves feel validated in our own breakups.
Precisely.
But while the Notes app poet might just be an anonymous person seeking some catharsis, our final quote takes this entire phenomenon to its most cynical extreme.
This one is rough.
Yeah, if the first quote was a visual accident and the second was confirmation bias, this last one is outright theft.
This is where the mechanisms shift from projection to deliberate exploitation.
Because we are talking about stealing the work of a known living artist.
Yes.
The passage is undeniably evocative. I'll read it. It goes, "You deserve a lover who wants you disheveled, with everything and all the reasons that wake you up in a haste and the demons that won't let you sleep."
I mean, it is a powerful piece of writing, capturing the raw desire to be loved, flaws and all. But the true author is not Frida Kahlo.
Nope.
The true author is a contemporary Mexican poet named Estefania Meter. The poem is actually titled Mereces un amor, which translates to "You deserve a love."
So a living modern Mexican poet wrote this. And yet, if you search for it online right now, you will see Kahlo's face attached to it thousands of times.
Right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, it exposes a deliberate social media strategy driven entirely by algorithmic incentives.
It's all about the algorithm.
Always. Platforms like Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok operate on the currency of engagement. And the algorithm inherently rewards familiar, highly recognizable aesthetics over unfamiliar text or unknown authors.
So Estefania Meter's name doesn't trigger the algorithm to push the post to thousands of people, but Frida Kahlo's iconic unibrow and flower crowns absolutely do.
Precisely. Content creators realize that to make Miter's beautiful poem go viral, they need a recognizable vessel. So they paste her words over Kahlo's portraits specifically to farm engagement, gain followers, and build their own social media clout.
Wow.
It is a literal commodification of Kahlo's historical face to sell someone else's modern words.
I mean, think about the sheer unfairness of that to you as a consumer of art and to the artist herself. In order to supposedly celebrate one famous Mexican artist from the past, the internet is actively robbing a contemporary Mexican poet of her rightful credit.
And her audience?
Yes, her audience and her livelihood. They are stealing a living woman's art to feed an algorithm's obsession with a dead woman's aesthetic. It's infuriating.
It strips away the nuance of both women's work completely. It reduces Frida Kahlo to a mute aesthetic mascot for any angsty sentiment, and it entirely erases Miter's authorship and talent.
It's just sad.
It's the dark side of that cognitive fluency we talked about earlier. It's what happens when visual recognition becomes more profitable than the actual truth.
So what does this all mean for us? We started this deep dive exploring the mission of separating the real Frida from the fakes.
They
And
do.
quotes are incredibly powerful tools, right? They give us the language to express our deepest, most complicated emotions when we can't find the words ourselves. But clearly, we have to remain vigilant.
Very vigilant.
Whether it's an accidental postcard mix-up that bypasses the professional curators at MoMA, our own confirmation bias needing to see modern self-love in our historical idols, a hijacked notes app breakup text, or a cynical algorithm grab, the words we mistakenly attribute to our heroes often say much more about us and our modern desires than they do about them.
And for you listening today, this highlights exactly why critical thinking is essential in a world built on rapid information overload.
You can't just blindly share things.
You really can't. The next time you are scrolling and you see a beautifully formatted, evocative quote online, just pause. Take one single second to question the source. If the sentiment moves you, appreciate it for what it is. Let the words impact you. But verify the messenger before you amplify it.
Right.
Don't let cognitive fluency do your thinking for you.
Because if we don't verify, if we just keep hitting share, we are actively participating in the facade.
Which brings us to a final thought to mull over after this deep dive ends.
What's that?
If we constantly feel the psychological need to take the brilliant words of modern teenagers, anonymous heartbroken people, and living contemporary poets, and we stuff those words into the mouths of dead historical figures just to give them weight, what does that say about whose voices we actually value in our culture today? Are we truly listening to the message itself, or are we just bowing to the fame of the messenger?
Wow. That is a profound question to leave on. Why do we need the authority of a legend to appreciate a beautiful piece of writing? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope it made you think a little differently about how you navigate your social media feeds. Keep questioning what you read, keep looking beyond the algorithm's aesthetic, and we'll catch you next time.